We should feel honored to call her a fellow Wildcat. So without further ado, Jackie MacMullan Boyle.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Emily, fellow Dual County League girl. And thank you to the UNH College of Liberal Arts class of 2023 for having me. I'm very, very honored. I'm going to move this mic up just a tad. I'm very, very honored to be speaking to all of you, but particularly to my beloved niece, Abigail Jane Boyle, who marches with you today. Congratulations, Abby. We love you very much. Now, I promise you all I'm not going to talk too long. At my commencement in 1982, it was so lengthy, my mother got up halfway through and went to the dairy bar for an ice cream. I won't do that to you. So after 40 years of a print reporter and television personality, I've been introduced as a speaker many, many times. I just did an event recently, and here's what they said about me. An award-winning journalist, unafraid to ask the tough questions, and a veteran reporter who fearlessly examined the uncharted waters of mental health in sports. Fearless. Tough, unafraid. I can't help it. Every time I hear that, I think to myself, who are they talking about? So I guess maybe I've turned out this way, but I have a feeling in the beginning when I came to UNH, I was much the way you were. I was a terrified 17-year-old kid who hardly knew anybody, unless you count the girl from my high school class who didn't really like me very much. In my first days here at the school, I kept searching for kids like my friends from home. You know, what I was searching for was familiarity, for comfort, and I just wasn't finding it. And it quickly became apparent to me that the only way this whole college thing was going to work was if I stepped outside my little bubble. So that meant talking to a stranger, sitting next to someone in class who seemed far more brilliant than I was. It meant going to the basketball meeting, which was mandatory if you were planning on actually trying out for the team, which was me. At least I hoped it was, if I didn't lose my nerve. When you come to a Division I athletic program without a scholarship, which I did, you're called a walk-on. I was no walk-on. I was a crawl-on. I had only played 1 year of varsity basketball before I came to UNH, and that was entirely my own fault. I grew up in Westwood, Massachusetts, which happened to have all right, home of the champions, thank you. We happen to have an incredible girls basketball program. They went 17 years without losing a league game. They were a really big deal. So I'm a freshman, and I show up to tryouts, and I look in the door, and I see all these amazing athletes running up and down the floor. I also see something else. They're all wearing basketball socks. And I was wearing Argyle socks. I didn't own any sports socks. I was 14, I didn't know. So I looked down at those Argyles, and I looked up at that door, and I made a decision. Next year. I'll try out next year. Well, next year came, and I had the proper athletic attire, but I looked at that door again. I just could not walk through it. Why not? Well, because if I walked through that door, everybody would be looking at me. Well, of course they'd be looking at you. That's what happened when someone walks through a door. Yeah, but maybe they'd make fun of me because I hadn't really played much basketball and I probably wasn't any good. But I was tall. I was athletic. Mostly I was just afraid. I didn't walk through. So my junior year of high school, the basketball coach went down to the middle school to watch my much braver younger sister, who was already a star. And she said to me, well, at least I'll get one MacMullan to play for me. To which I quickly replied, well, I'll try out. And she looked at me with the most can you imagine a 5'11" kid walking down the hall and she hasn't tried out and now you find out she wanted to all along? And I said, well, it's too late. It's probably too late. And you know what? Fortunately for me, it wasn't. My coach, Kathy Delaney Smith, met me in the gym before school every single day to try to get me up to speed. It was a very tall order. Pun intended, I guess. I was a junior on the JV basketball team. Gangly, awkward, but very, very eager. I put in a lot of hours before and after practice. Sometimes the kids did laugh at me, but you know what? I didn't care, because once I got hold of that opportunity, I had a death grip on it. My senior year, our team went to the state championship. I was the 6th man, and we lost by a single point. And yes, if you must know, I did miss the last shot. It's okay, I think. I'm still not over it, actually. But as my father always reminded me, at least you had the courage to take it. Basketball became my passion. I watched it, I played it, here, as a matter of fact, for 4 years. And then eventually, I made it my life's work to write about it. But even that took a little cajoling. My academic advisor at UNH was the legendary Don Murray, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist. We met every week to go over the stories I had written for class. And he would say to me every time, you know, you should go over to the New Hampshire. They're always looking for new writers. And I would assure Don Murray, yes, I will do that later. Well, 6 weeks went by, and Don Murray stood up and announced, we're going for a walk. So off we went to the MUB, where the New Hampshire office was located. And he said, now you can go in there by yourself, or I'll drag you in there with me. What's it gonna be? I went in by myself. And you know what? It took me a while to find my footing. But once I started writing at the New Hampshire, all it did was cement this dream I had had since I was a young child, and that was to be a writer. And you know what? In the meantime, my life kind of settled in here in Durham. I met friends who were not carbon copies of my childhood companions, which led me to new interests, new ideas, and new places. I met a really cute guy, Mike Boyle, and I've been with him ever since for 42 years. So my journalism peers did their internships during the school year. This was impossible for me because basketball overlapped into both semesters, which meant I was behind again. In my last year, I desperately wanted to do a summer internship at the Boston Globe, but they didn't take graduating seniors. My professor, Andy Merton, are you here, Andy Merton, on the stage? There he is. He's my mentor, Andy Merton. He came up with a brilliant solution: defer my graduation, even though I had enough credits. True story. So I worked on the news side of the Globe that summer, but as soon as my shift was over, I migrated to sports and just kind of watched and listened. I think I spent about 10 hours a day there. By the time summer was up, everybody knew I was actually a graduate. So I took a deep breath, I walked into the office of the sports editor, Vince Doria, and I said, I'm young, I'm a woman, you don't have to pay me hardly any money. I just really, really want to work here. So Vince assigned me some college football games, including UNH, by the way, on a per diem basis. He checked with the desk to see if I was good on deadline. He checked with the teams I was covering to see if I was reasonably accurate. And then at the age of 22, he hired me. It was the biggest break of my life. And it was the result of a very, very simple formula. Now, I'm going to guess, parents, you've told your kids this 1,000 times. Listen to your parents. 80% of life is showing up. Now, I tell my own kids that, and I get the double permanent eye roll, but I'm telling you, I assure you, this is true, okay? I mean it. Now, people say to me all the time, oh my gosh, your job was so amazing. You got to interview and meet all these famous people. You are so lucky. And you know what I say? Luck has very little to do with it. The first year that I covered the Celtics full time, and we're talking Larry Bird and Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish, those were the good old days, weren't they? Maybe today's Celtics should take a look at some of the film. Okay. Back there, in preseason, the team worked out twice a day. Almost all the reporters went in the morning. I went to both. And in those evening sessions, I was almost always the only one. Now here's why I tell you this. We got to fast forward now 20 years. I'm in a hotel room interviewing Larry Bird. We're writing our second book together called When the Game's Ours, available only in paperback now. At this point, we know each other pretty well, and maybe we've had a cocktail or two. And I said to him, you know, I've always wondered, why did you pick me? Now, wouldn't it have been fantastic if Larry Bird had said, oh, it was your witty personality, or, oh, it was your exquisite prose? Here's what he said. You were always there. I could count on you. I knew you were someone I could trust because you never missed. 80% of life is showing up. That trust has enabled me for more than 40 years to chronicle some of the most famous athletes in the world. Bill Russell, hard guy to get to trust you. Martina Navratilova, Michael Jordan, Diana Taurasi, Tom Brady, Pedro Martinez, Steph Curry. My job has taken me all around the world. I sipped tea with Joel Embiid's mother in their living room in their native Cameroon. I covered the Henley rowing regatta in England while they measured my skirt with a ruler to make sure it wasn't too far above the knee as Queen Elizabeth looked on. True story. I swam in Shaquille O'Neal's pool. I held Teddy Bruschi's newborn son in his home. I swung David Ortiz's very weighty bat in the Fenway infield. And I sat with Jaylen Brown as he detailed his battles with anxiety in his early years as a budding athlete. I took my role as a journalist very, very seriously. The public needed to know they could trust us to deliver the truth. Well, the world is changing, and so is my industry. Just like the political climate in our country, the media has become divisive, controversial, and in some cases, pretty unreliable. And it breaks my heart. You have all come of age in the middle of all this discord. You've endured a worldwide pandemic that knocked us all to our knees and stole so much from each of you. I imagine each one of you leave today with a scar or two, or maybe even 3, of time lost that you can never get back. But your resiliency will serve you well going forward. I'm sure of it. So now I have something to ask of you. My generation has made a royal mess of things. We have created a toxic culture of animosity that quite frankly frightens me. A difference of opinion is not just healthy, it's necessary, it's imperative, but not with so much hate and judgment attached. Okay, take a look at the person sitting next to you. I don't know if you know their political views or not. Take a good look. So let's just say your views are opposite one another. Does that mean you can't speak to one another? That's it? No common ground? no friendship, no common discussion? Before we jump to conclusions and make grand, sweeping pronouncements about others, shouldn't we consider that those views may come from cultural differences or economic considerations or maybe even personal experiences? I'm a Democrat, a liberal. Well, okay, but not everybody is. Those friends, those childhood friends that I referenced this, many of them are not. So what does that mean? So after 50 years of incredible friendship, now I turn my back? I can't talk to those friends anymore? How can it be? How did we get here? How did we get so short-sighted? Your generation does not seem that way to me. Thank you for that. I'm heartened by your empathy and by your acceptance of others, no matter how different they are. I just love that. By your curiosity, by your authenticity, and by your kindness. Let those qualities take you as you go forward. What better legacy? Thank you. What better legacy to be the generation that finds a way to heal these seismic cracks in the foundation of our country by practicing tolerance, by listening. What a novel idea. By listening and be discovering that middle ground that I just know is going to save us. Now, that's not a comfortable journey. Most worthwhile things are not. It's daunting. I'd say it's probably a little scary, too. But it was Eleanor Roosevelt who told us, you must do the thing you think you cannot do. Now, I am no Eleanor Roosevelt, but I am a proud graduate of the University of New Hampshire, just like you. This is the place where I discovered my voice and my fortitude. And now it's your turn. Don't just peek through that door, wondering, what if? Take a deep breath and walk straight through, wearing any kind of socks you want. Congratulations to the class of 2023. Thank you.